This is a journey into sound.
The fattest, funkiest tunes in town.
Now, here comes the music.
All right, that's what it is. It's all right. You know why? Because it's the morning, you're alive, you're here, we've all collected and coalesced, my friends, and we're going to do the pre-market show. Good morning, everybody. My name's Elaine Adams. Some people call me Stock Mom, and you know what time it is, so let's get into it. What do we do in this pre-market show? We talk about futures, indices, ETFs, individual stocks. We talk about the news. Oh, we love talking about the news. We're definitely going to be talking about some of the earnings we have going on today. We talk about our trades, both good and bad, and the psychology behind those trades. Now, what nobody is going to do here and what we do not do is give out financial advice. We won't tell you what to do with your money. We won't give you advice on what to do with your money. But what we can do is tell you about our trades and why we took them. And hopefully that can guide you in your journey to become a market master. Now, I'm joined by some of my favorite people. Christopher, Liv, Alec, Patrick, Marcus. Hey, what's up, man? And newcomer to the stage, Kazi. Welcome, you guys.
Hey, thank
Now,
you.
normally, oh, of course. Always happy to have you. So, normally we like to start our days off with quotes. And I'm going to start today's quote fest off with one from Alec because, you know, that guy is prolific on Twitter. Today's Alec quote is, "He who overcomes himself is mighty." Now, although I didn't like that you used a gender, but whatever, we'll get over that. I'll forgive you, Alec, because it's an awesome quote. And overcoming yourself and that fear that you have is something that I struggle with really consistently. Hey, the market is crazy. Not only that, but this is a time when everybody I know has been wrong. Yeah, it's been a stock picker's market, but it's still been a hard one. I know a lot of people that are still recovering from March. And truth be told, it's hard to regain that confidence and move in the same ways that we used to. And guess what? For me, I'm not moving in the same way. I'm changing my trading style. I'm trying to adapt. I have to keep winning. And for me, that involves overcoming the fear of being wrong. It involves trying to get better and to bounce back from that stuff. So I'm living in it. I love the quote. I'm going to give myself a round of applause.
I don't even need to go then.
I was gonna say Alec isn't gonna go then. That's cool.
Hey, Alec, you're always replaying in my mind. But
I
if you
love
do
that.
have something you want to share, go for it, bro.
I don't. I am enjoying myself this week on vacation. So you did one there for me. I don't even need to. So on to the next.
I love that. Next up, Christopher, go for it, man. What do you got for us today?
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to add a quote for the day. We are, we do this show when we do it because for a reason, and so I wanted to go to Warren Buffett. And I kind of feel like we do give. Or this show prepares everybody for a level playing field, and it's more of one of the reasons why I'm here, and I'm hoping that you guys are here as well. So games are won by players who focus on the playing field, not by those whose eyes are glued to the scoreboard. And so, yeah, Warren Buffett.
I kind of like using the shoe stream and not having to do it on my phone. Good morning, Liv. What brilliant sensu level quote do you have for us today?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Elaine. My quote today is, "Success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction and knowing you did your best to become the best you are capable of becoming," by John Wooden. I hope you guys have a great trading day today with successful trades. Maybe you're playing around earnings, and excuse me for such loud noise outside of my home.
Yeah, Liv, the birds in your area are just unreasonably happy, and I demand that you quiet them. Good morning, Patrick.
Morning, Stock Mom. So, yeah, I've got a quote. Wish easier. Wish you were better. Just plain and simple.
Yeah, I missed the beginning of that. What? Can you run it back?
Sure. Sorry. Don't wish life were easier. Wish you were better.
Oh, hell yeah. I always tell everybody, I'm just like, look, I just want to make more money. Like, I don't, that's like my solution to everything. More sales, more money. Let's just go that direction. That's fun. I'm with you. Marcus, good morning, man. Do you have a
Good
quote for us
morning. Good
today?
morning. Yeah, I do actually. Every once in a while, the market does something so stupid it takes your breath away, and that's by B. Jim Cramer.
Do you have anything in mind that you feel like was stupid today that we've kind of undergone?
I made so many stupid ones myself the last couple of weeks. I thought it was just me messing up in March, so I think I was really applying that to me, just in my trading position sometimes.
No, that's valid, man. We've all done it. You're not alone. Good morning, Fahim.
Hi. No quote, but there's this plugin called Club Deck that I think would be really useful for this room. You can add audio and all sorts of additional things to the room. So I downloaded it. It's pretty nifty. Might want to check it out.
Just to reiterate, Club Deck.
Yeah, DECK, and it's like a plugin for your. It's just a application for your computer, and you can that were using it this morning. They were adding in sound bites and all sorts of. Some guy added like fart noises in, so you can do all sorts of things with it.
Oh
But it
shit!
will,
It's a Clubhouse client for your computer.
yeah,
Oh
exactly.
shit! This changes everything. I'm so excited. Liv, this is what we wanted.
Yep.
All right, Fahim, you're the winner for today. This is great. And good morning, Daniel.
Yo, what's up? Good morning, everybody. How's everybody? I guess I got a quote that the homie said on Twitter yesterday with everything happening with Bitcoin. It was bears are boring. Why is your whole personality built on failure? And I like that. Shout out to Stun in Hypernova. He's a mod.
Yeah, but like I feel like I play the bear note a lot of the time. Are you calling me boring, Daniel? Let's just have this out now.
No, I just think it's a funny quote. It's great.
It's hilarious. So with that said, I just want to get straight to the damn futures if I'm gonna be honest.
But also,
Well,
there was like a bunch of people adding him about Bitcoin to 20K, Bitcoin to 15K, and like he was just like, "Get off my fucking timeline." It was
Nah,
funny.
for real. Not to interject on that. Bitcoin is going to 10K right now. I feel like on a weekly time frame, it's broken a major support. I've been selling it since 64. So I think it's gonna retrace back up to 64 and then make that drop again. It's forming an M on the weekly time frame.
all right, Kazi, that was your morning quote.
Now, my morning quote. I didn't
now
get
we're
asked.
gonna talk about futures.
My morning quote is I created it like a few years ago. It's "Live to be remembered, not forgotten." That's my quote.
I actually like that. But next time, you guys, don't talk through my fucking change music. We're talking about futures now. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like the way people try to predict Bitcoin prices. It's like, okay, anybody with eyes, not true, but like if you're a support and resistance type of trader, you might have looked at this and said, hey, I'm not worried until it hits 47,000, which it did, and then it bounced in like, but we were talking about that weeks ago at this point. So I'm just not. I don't know. I'm not convinced, you guys. I'd much rather talk about the S&P 500 futures. Do you have a take on those, Kazi?
Yes, I do. S&P
Yes.
500. I see.
Yes.
I trade a little bit of everything. I don't look at the market with my naked eyes, so when it's a little bit easier for me to predict price action.
So do you look at charts?
Yeah, I look at charts, but I have a system, if that makes sense, that actually plots everything out for me. I
In
don't have
30
to.
seconds or less, can you explain what we're
Yeah,
looking at on a daily chart for the
give me
S&P
a second.
500 futures?
Yeah, actually, let me go pull my system up. I'll do that for you. Give me a second.
All right, cool. I'll start with the Nasdaq then. So Nasdaq, we closed at 13,927, and today we're sitting at 13,904, representing a 0.17% decrease from Friday's close. Now, this is an interesting thing, and you guys know what week it is, so that's really what I want to talk about. Lord knows that's the thing that's important to me right now. It's big tech earnings. That should be what's on your mind. And also, I wanted to talk about how to play earnings in general, but first let's just get into this chart real quick. We have big tech earnings, and that represents a point in time when we get to see when most of our favorite companies, or a lot of the tech industry right now, the major large cap tech, is going to report for their earnings for this last quarter. And what does this say? Well, this is going to set fairly large precedent for what we're going to expect from the rest of the industry. Not only that, this is indeed going to dictate what we're looking at when we're seeing for the rest of the year, right? These guidance numbers and what they're going to say about potential supply chain shortages or potential risk factors due to COVID, due to anything. Are going to dictate what we're looking at for the rest of the year. Now, specifically, every single day, there's something kind of crazy going on. And in general, to be honest, I'm not the one who says, let's play earnings. I'm not trying to hold through earnings. I don't try to guess the top. I don't really try to guess what the reaction is going to be. However, because earnings are such a catalyst, and I think that the market exuberance is still showing that it's there. Not only that, if we do reference what Kazi's talking about, because I was in a Bitcoin room last night too. I mean, we were watching it, right? Some huge orders. And that for me shows that people are still absolutely sitting on the sidelines with money ready to make the speculative growth play, which is what Bitcoin represents in a lot of ways to a lot of people, especially those who are participating in the stock market. Now, what do we have in terms of early pre-market winners? Riot, Mara, MicroStrategy, all of that, right? Like continuing to go up. Also, I think this is very interesting. Binance adding tokens to represent Apple, MicroStrategy, and Microsoft starting this week, right? So we're seeing kind of like the coalescing of the type of people who are going to invest in Bitcoin also be the type of people who invest in large cap stocks. Also, if we were going to pick an index that had the strongest correlation, it would be the NASDAQ. Right. So looking at that, understanding that Bitcoin just kind of did have a really strong recovery that happened in the last 24 hours, to be honest. And thinking about that in terms of what that means maybe for tech money as well, I think this is a really powerful and potentially strong start to the week. With that said, we are down right now, but we're down after the past week of having a really strong consolidation level. And we're consolidating around this 13,900 level, right near basically our all time high. I'm not really taking this little bit of a downtick and kind of consolidation pattern as anything negative as of yet. So with me, it's always going to be activation levels. And personally, right now, I'd love to see us hold over this 13,900 level, moving towards the 14,000 and stay here. I mean, even if we do between 14,000 and 13,800, for me is a really strong. It's called a high base consolidation, where we're consolidating across the high of a level. And if we can have that along with holding or a spike in volume, that's how we expect a breakout to happen in these sorts of situations. Now, anything below the 13,600 level definitely would represent a retrace. That would bring us below are, of course, all of my moving averages are the wrong color, but it would bring us below our 50-day moving average. And for me, then that would start to maybe show some hesitation. And now we can also say if we see something like an Apple or Microsoft or one of our big tech stocks shit the bed, I mean, that could have a pretty strong correlation into the overall index. But I'm not expecting that currently. I'm actually expecting us to have a fairly strong earnings week,
Okay.
with fairly decent guidance. And the worst thing I could expect to see from this, honestly, would be dealing with shortage and supply chain issues related to semiconductors, relating to specifically what's going on in Taiwan, and relating to COVID measures and sales. But we haven't gotten any indication that that's the case. As a matter of fact, with Apple, we just heard that they're going to invest more billions in getting 20,000 new jobs over the next 10 years in America. So a lot of these companies are doing well and have cash. This is large cap tech. This is the week. Oh man. And
So I wanted to
now I'll let Kazi
go ahead.
explain something about the S&Ps. Go for it, man.
I wanted to go ahead and speak on the S&P right now. Right now on the daily time frame, S&P is extremely oversold. It's hit a daily top on the resistance. If you go look on the weekly time frame, you can see that there's a doji, a bearish doji right here, right there at the 4200 mark, and it started to fall since then on the day one in the H4 time frame. Me personally, I see it falling down in the H4 time frame in the next 4 to 8 hours to 4140 from where it's at from 4179 right now. And I was just looking at that on the hour 4 on the daily time frame overall. I see a lot of tech stocks dropping out of the sky because of what Bitcoin is about to do. You have to understand there's a lot of tech companies that have Bitcoin. They have a lot of money invested in Bitcoin for the wrong reasons, but their reasons are really selfish. They don't really believe in Bitcoin. They're using it for like a asset protection to cover their losses every year, because that's why people are buying in instead of selling their stock and their employees selling their stock. People will buy Bitcoin holdings and then they'll cover their losses for the year. So that's what people are starting to use Bitcoin for. That's why
Oh
so
man,
many
this is
people.
super difficult. Can you explain it without using the word Bitcoin in a sentence?
All
Uh,
right, so pretty much, I see S&P 500 falling down all the way to 3840 on the daily time frame. That's where I see. That's what I see happening. I see that also on Nas 100. I have a stop loss at 14,000, and my TP for Nas is 12,800.
Wait,
all right, Kazi,
over how long?
you're on punishment. Nope, Liv. Do you want to talk about the S&P
Huh.
500 futures?
Yeah.
Um.
Wow. How am I on punishment? What did I say wrong?
Just because that was a lot of Bitcoin's talk, and also that is a fairly strong prediction for a daily
No,
candle.
you have to understand the reason I'm speaking about Bitcoin is because these tech companies are.
Sorry, you guys. Kazi, no defending Bitcoin. We just want to talk about things objectively. So I'll go. So the S&P 500 futures, we closed on Friday at 4171, and we're sitting at 4172, representing fairly close to all-time high and a 0.02% increase for this. And I am honestly not the most bullish or bearish person. I just want to represent it in a way, right? We've been trading inside of this range between 4,168 and 4,100 flat, which represents 416 and 410 on SPY in general for the past week now. This has been something that we've been consolidating, and it's been after a large consolidation in the 393 to 387 region. I think that this increase really does, once again, represent the bullish nature of where we're expecting ourselves to go. Patrick came in here a while ago and said SPY to 420 by the end of April, and we're very, very, very close to that. I've also been seeing people talk about SPY to 480 by the end of the year, right? And so that doesn't mean anything other than like some sort of price prediction. But if we were going to use Patrick's prediction and the reason why, based off of pent up demand, reopening trades, market exuberance, and also easement, kind of dealing with people being able to get loans and stuff like that, I think that that kind of played out exactly as he was predicting. While a lot of us were a lot more questionable about how and where this market exuberance was going to come from, and also very skeptic because a lot of people did get their asses handed to them in March. But seeing us start this week sitting at 417, fairly green, could be promising, and obviously the next level for this would be 420 and 421. However, on the downside, I think 410 would be the opportune level. We've used that as a strong support one, two, three, four times in the past 10 days alone. So a break of that could signify that we're going to go back maybe down to the 4,000 level and retest that as well. But more than anything, I'd expect us to kind of gain some momentum and probably get rejected and come retrace back at least to 410, if not for 400. And that's kind of what I'm looking at personally. Anybody else?
Hey, Elaine, can I chime in on the SPY stuff as well, if that's
Yeah,
okay?
please, Pat.
Cool. So, I was, like you said, Elaine, we were talking a few weeks back, and I did kind of look at some of the charts, look at some of the analytics out there, and say SPY to 4,200, or sorry, S&P to 4,200, SPY to 420. I do think we hit that this week, and then sorry, I'm trying to frantically scroll through my Twitter to find it. And then I am going to agree with you. I do think after that we do take a little, I don't know if you want to call it profit taking, correction, sell off. You pick whatever term you're comfortable with. But I agree with you. I do think we'll kind of go down and retest maybe maybe potentially a 385, 393 level area after we, again, in my opinion, break 420, and then we'll again retrace. And then after that, and Elaine, I'll share this with you later this week once I finish it. But I've been, as you've seen on Twitter, Elaine, I've been tracking the historical context of how the VIX has been moving. We just reached the VIX's second all-time high, or second highest ever this past year during the pandemic, and then you'll see the VIX fade off and trade relatively flat for about 2 years afterwards. Once we reach the bottom, which I think we're pretty close to, and with that, you also will see SPY, especially in that case, hit all-time highs. So I'll share this part with you later this week, Elaine. But I'm also now looking at potentially after we see SPY go and hit that 395-ish range, we'll call it, going to 4,300 by June. I know you don't like price predictions, but I'll share with you my analysis so that way this isn't me just throwing out a price prediction, but I'm almost finished with it for you.
I love it, man. As long as you have a reason behind it, it's something good. We're all interested. Plus, you were very. I mean, I don't know. I thought that was a great. I think we were all fairly skeptic at the beginning of April with the 420 end of April call, and here we are. And now it doesn't seem so crazy at all, right? Had somebody
Yeah, I
just loaded
remember.
up on 420 calls, that would have worked out. But anyways, that's not what I'm advertising either. Just an interesting point. I like your perspective.
Yeah, I remember. I heard the skepticism in your voice when I said it, but that's what I love about your stock mom. You let us do our thing, but also you, like you said, hey, don't just back it up because you got a gut. Everyone's got a gut. Back it up with something you can see on a chart that we can all partake in discussing. So appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Also, I like using VIX as some sort of measurement of like where we're going to go or potential indicator, and it is still at a fairly decent highly level, and we can definitely come down, and that would represent something about the overall direction of the market. But currently, we're continuing to stay at least at the 17 level, and like the last time we even hit 16, me and Liv were sitting here looking at VIX and saying, "Wow, this is unusually low for the current economic situation, and I wonder if we should, be kind of using this as a hedge," and that still has worked. And I'm wondering when we actually are going to continue to see VIX drop to the levels it was at before March, which is much closer to 13, 12, 10 even on the chart, as opposed to 16, 17, and then up to the 20s again as we get these high spikes in volatility. Also, now to kind of add the Bitcoin element in here, like we're getting more and more companies that are like buying and holding Bitcoin, especially in financials. But I mean, outside of that, there are potential schemes where we see more and more of the market start to move um, convergently with the price of Bitcoin, which would be terrifying for me, to be honest. Like, God, that would make everything suck. But what we shall see. Also, just to throw out there that the 10-year and the 5-year are also both up respectively, which who cares about the 5-year, I guess. But with the 10-year being up 0.5%, maybe do we continue to assume that there may be some potential correlation between that and our Nasdaq. I don't know, but I do know that literally anytime the 10-year ticks up this much, 0.6%, Jesus Christ, which isn't a lot, right? So it closed it on Friday at 1.56, and it's sitting at 1.57 right now. So that's not crazy. I think 1.6 and 1.7 have represented some of the higher levels, but with this thing, it's not necessarily the level that it's at, it's how fast it rises, which kind of represents something to us. So unless anybody has anything else to add, I do want to talk about earnings plays today and how people play earnings.
I've got oil ready for you if you want me to get that out of the way first.
Go for it, Chris. And also, did you see natural gas on Friday?
Yeah, absolutely.
It
Spiked
went
up.
fucking
It's
crazy.
it's
All right.
like it's actually looked like it's like doing the inverse thing to the other two, which is kind of crazy. Because where we stand right now, well, let me just go ahead and get into where we stand. So we're ticking lower, and this is actually what we would expect to see. And I really don't like where we are right now. To be perfectly honest, let's talk about a couple of things that we kind of went over last week. We had, India, which is the third largest importer, right? And now we have the fourth largest importer also having COVID issues, which is Japan. And so we're ticking lower. Also, we have OPEC meeting coming up on the 28th. Me and Alana get it together offline and figure out if we're going to stream that. But it will be taking place on the 28th, so Wednesday of this week. But the thing is, we don't see a reason for them to change their mind and the go ahead to extend the output cuts, right? So demand is going down. It simply is. And I don't know, although the American market seems to be continuing to do what it's reaching that herd immunity. I don't think that's going to be enough. We need the international travel, we need business travel, and as of right now, the results just aren't looking good. And so, with that being said, I honestly think we could be taking that down into some of these areas and ranges that we saw in March. I'm looking at this for today specifically. I wouldn't be surprised if we settled around 60.93. I mean, we've already been at the 60.85 level. Now, on the reverse side, if OPEC, in the next 24, 48 hours, people start getting sentiments that OPEC is going to say something other than, they're going to continue with the output cuts, then maybe we could see the 61.30 level hold. But I don't think it's going to even stay there. I think we're going to go lower to the 60.84 level on the WTI side, and on the Brent side, I think we're going to see that 64.83 range for today, and even tick down into some of those lows like 63.61, 63.43 is actually where I'm seeing it going to test those levels. On the natural gas side, actually, we're up, right? And I think it's kind of doing the exact inverse. As you can see, we kind of got the 1 point. It's trickling between 1.8 to 2% there, and it's kind of moving in the opposite direction. I still haven't quite got comfortable with it as to why. But Elaine, if you want to jump in there and cover that, I am starting to pick it up and see how it inversely correlates.
It's not necessarily an inverse correlation. Honestly, it tends to trade too, and a lot of this natural gas product is coming out as a derivative of what's coming from oil. Although there also are definitely different companies that focus specifically on natural gas. Just it's I'm not necessarily an expert on it either, other than that use case is slightly different. Right? Like this isn't going in. Whatever, this isn't going in cars, it's not the crude oil part of it, but natural gas is something that people are spending at home basically, right? This comes from burners, propane, I mean, sorry, not propane, right? Sorry, burners and liquid natural gas very specifically. So I personally just was looking at the market trends and noting that we were seeing higher demand for this natural gas and some of the companies that we note to be major exporters of it. And that's really all that was based off of. Much like you, man, I'm been trading oil and trying to expand and add more. So I think we both need to do some more homework and try to figure out really deeper the supply and demand area of it. But just getting crude oil for me has been a journey. So
Yeah, and I like that. And I did forget to mention that we also like another catalyst that sends us on the downside. Like it's not too much to like hugely affect the numbers, and I haven't quite figured out like the financial perspective on the downside per oil rig. But we did lose a oil rig over the weekend, and so the count went down by one to like 341 or something like that. I'll get into the numbers, and once I figure that out, I'll drop that in the Discord for everybody to figure out like how much of a financial benefactor is one oil rig.
Hey, Chris, can I ask you a quick question when it comes to oil?
Go ahead, Patrick.
So I know we seem to be pretty in line on a lot of it. Have you, or even Elaine, into the oil stuff as well, have either one of you been tracking um, the forecasted demand for, the revived summer of driving that they're anticipating?
I lost a big part of that, Patrick. And welcome,
Sorry.
Siobhan. Go ahead. You
Sorry.
just want to like you said you've been following it,
Uh,
and has anybody been
following oil.
anticipating? And then it cut off.
Okay. Has anyone been anticipating the revived summer of driving with what's it? I believe they said 60% of the population has now been, or 1.2 or yeah, 120 million people have been vaccinated, something like that. In the U.S., more should be vaccinated by the summer. Planes are still going to be maybe somewhat scary, and people doing more road trips and driving just to, get out. I mean, Chris, I know I've seen you tweet about doing a road trip to Miami soon, so we can all hang out.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. And yeah, and I think we've been talking about that. I think we've been talking about the bullish trend, hopefully getting back over that 70 and trending into the 80 range towards the end of July. But as of right now, we're just seeing and it was supposed to be like it wasn't like to Elaine's point, oil never really, goes straight up. It goes real up goes up real slow. And then it pulls back in between historically the 40 and 80 range. And right now we're just experiencing some turbulence on the way up due to, COVID for the most part, specifically in Japan and India. And so the U.S. market, I think it is going to open, and I think we are going to start to tick upwards, but that's going to be midsummer, and then we'll see how that goes. Because, like I said, we're seeing these festivals. Like, if they hold, I'm really bullish on it because that is just going to show that there's a lot of domestic travel. I like to see Airbnb, some of the plays, the local airlines, some of that stuff go back up. But like I said, I'm still 2 months out before I'm looking at that stuff seriously. I might be loading up at the end of next month.
Gotcha.
Hi, sorry, I just joined the room and quick question. Have you guys already discussed Tesla?
Not yet. We'll get to the news momentarily. So we're about to go into our indices, actually.
Okay, thanks.
Or
Yeah.
earnings. Actually, earnings. That's right.
No,
That's
we,
what you
we can
go.
talk about earnings. No,
Yeah,
I'm done to talk
because
earnings, please.
because today they will be releasing earnings, and I'm just wondering if I should sell some of my Tesla. It has been doing quite well the past few weeks, but year to date is still near 0%, as in terms of return. So I just wonder if it's undervalued compare the big techs within the year, how Tesla has performed.
I mean, I think that's a toss up depending on what they actually say in their earnings calls. Now, most people think trading earnings, like trying to guess what the earnings response is, and I am not an expert at it. I know some people who traded, but even those people are wrong a fair amount of the time. So like for me, what are we looking at for Tesla's earnings in the first place? Well, we want to know expectations on delivery numbers for the rest of the year. And we definitely want to hear about how they're going to continue to ramp their manufacturing if they're going to hit the 4 million or something like that they said that they were going to, that whatever Kathy Woods is expecting us to hit by 2023. Right, so that delivery number expectation is going to be huge. Outside of that, let's see, what else am I looking at for Tesla? I definitely want to know what they're going to be continue to do with their autonomous driving, because so far we've really seen a weak response on that as well, in terms of like them getting into accidents, and also the fact that it's not truly autonomous so far. Right, somebody actually has to be in the seat, and that's the way it is. But because they're not testing with a driverless car, they're not logging in driverless car miles. So that's kind of important. I'd really want to know about like their international situation, because hearing China kind of continue to not push Tesla, and back other companies specifically and limit the places where Teslas can drive, that would have a larger effect on the overall market because China is the number one EV purchaser currently. And I mean, for me, although this isn't something a lot of other people are talking about, I want to hear about continued innovation in the battery sector. I personally don't think that they're going to continue to debut at some point is yards are really ahead of any of the other batteries, and I'm just not hearing the investment in like kind of a higher level of whatever, something solid state or something. Where's this million-mile battery? Right. And especially when we look at like the Tesla Semi or something like that, like these problems get more exacerbated as you choose a bigger truck that has to have more and more torque, although obviously electric vehicles are great with the torque, but that power consumption is just going to be harder and faster, and then the recharge time associated with a battery like that is going to be longer, right? Because it's just going to be more robust. And already, like, we see the potential of why the Neo battery swap model might be better when a Neo battery swap station can swap out 312 batteries in one day, and a Tesla can do 96, right? And that's if they don't even charge to full capacity. And I think it would be much less if we have a larger vehicle with more batteries just located on it. So that's kind of the things I'm thinking about for Tesla's earnings, and trying to predict it is normally a shit show. Um, with that said, here's how I play earnings, and here's what I'm thinking about for this week.
Elaine,
Yeah, go for it.
can I ask you a quick follow up on Tesla really quick before you jump into the broader earnings?
Sure.
So do you, the market sentiment's kind of with earnings has seemed to be that the sympathy plays are back. Um, do you feel that with Tesla, it's a, and again, I know I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of trying to predict earnings either. But do you feel like the sympathy plays are going to be there where things are going to start running and the sector forms again?
I mean, I struggle to predict that too, but currently I'm going to say yeah, and or potentially like inverse correlation, like if for some reason Tesla shits the bed or something like that, we could, and depending on why it does it, we could definitely see some action going the other direction as well. Delivery target numbers, I think, would be a fairly big one actually. If they say anything about having to deal with the shortage, which every auto manufacturer has, I think that could be fairly impactful in terms of like short-term price volatility. And then also like just pure guidance, right? Like the whole Tesla valuation thing is still based off the fact that they're not a car company, and that they have much more to offer than being a car company. And I don't know, because the investors in Tesla sometimes don't seem to care at all, and then sometimes they react really strongly, like Battery Day last year. But it's like I personally would love to hear about the innovations in software licensing that they're intending to do, or whatever equipment manufacturing leasing that they're intending to do, or partnerships with other companies uh, that are going to show us why they're going to continue to grow and gain market share, because they have so much competition, and I just don't want to see Tesla competing against an electric Toyota Camry. I don't think that that bodes well for the for that particular market.
Sorry to
So
interrupt, Aline. So
I go
just
for it. See.
wondering, in terms of trade, how would you trade around this? I know these are all keys to be concerned of, and Elon Musk probably will talk about the FSD progress or updates in the earnings call when the analysts ask them the question. But just in terms of trades, practically, would you sell portion of your Tesla holdings, or would you just hold long term?
For me, very specifically, if I was holding on to Tesla, and it depends on when I bought in, I would be holding until we reached my target that I thought that they were supposed to reach. So for me personally, I guess if I was holding Tesla, which I'm not, full disclosure, I don't hold Tesla at all, right? But I would be in it for the long term, right? Did you think that Tesla was gonna whatever max out at what is it sitting at right now?
Okay,
At
fine. Yeah,
729.
yeah,
Like that's
I
not
agree
what I
with
would
you.
be in the Tesla trade for, to be honest. This is maybe potentially, and it's like a midpoint. This is not giving, I have really no clear direction. Is it going to be a car company that struggles? Are they going to go software? Are they going to continue to build battery infrastructure? Are they going to, that would really determine it. So I still would need more direction before I just sold on a stock that has such growth potential. But I guess it depends on when I got in. and what I was looking for and the length of trade I was trying to make and my risk tolerance. If I was not in Tesla, which I am not right now, and I was looking to potentially make a play, what would I do? I would play the potential. Well, there's no time to catch a pre-anticipatory. Well, today could be the pre-anticipatory run-up, right? Of people wanting to get in. If there's that, that's a potential play for sure. But here's how I play earnings, you guys. Sorry, and I wanted to say this. This is what I do, and I'll tell you like some of the things on my watch list today. I play last week's earnings. That's how I do it. I find a company. I mean, not even a find. We pay attention to all of the earnings, right? Last week's, 2 weeks ago. I want to play something that has had a reaction and is currently whatever, an overreaction. Maybe it's had a sell-off because they missed on revenue. However, the miss on revenue was because of accrued debt and they were paying their debt off, right? Or sorry, earnings per share. And all of these things are things that are easier to play. You'll have a clear direction. If nothing has fundamentally changed about the company, then why would I be scared of buying the dip on a sell-off based off of a weak earnings report? It doesn't change the long-term outlook, specifically if we have great guidance. So these are the things that I'm looking for, and thusly so, I can tell you about last week we had Freeport McMoran, one of FCX. We put that on our watch list all the time. The copper trade is piping hot right now and continues to show that they will continue to make more money. And that demand is going to continue to rise, mostly because of the infrastructure needed. But on top of that, we are seeing part of what there was a weak reaction for Freeport McMoran was because the price of getting the raw material also rose by like 17 cents per whatever pound unit. Um, so we saw some balancing out in that market. However, the overall outlook for copper and major copper companies is still up. And so hopping into that trend after confirming that that was going to go down, that's something I can actually have a little bit more confidence in than guessing what Tesla does because, oh my Lord, is it a crapshoot with that thing. I could go down to Baker Hughes, which is they do the Baker Hughes oil rig report, and we know what's going on with oil right now, and we still have expectations for supply and demand as we move towards the summer, even with continued COVID concerns, right? But that's something that I'm looking at because we've already seen the earnings reaction. We already know this company is profitable and will continue to be profitable as we see oil at these levels. They told us in their earnings report. We've had a week to watch and continue to see if this is going to, how their guidance is going to go, and also how the reaction was going to go from the average investor. And so right now it's sitting at 20. I'm looking towards the $22 level, and my stop loss can be really tight because I've seen this thing hold over 1897. Right? Las Vegas Sands reported earnings last week. Now, Las Vegas Sands and the gambling industry in general, we're seeing more and more opening of seeing more and more states continue to accept and allow for gambling inside of their states. I think Chicago is now on the list, right? There's going to be a casino in Chicago. So I look at a company like Las Vegas Sands, which did report kind of a mixed earnings, although they did say that they're continuing to have their Q3 bookings are continuing to rise. And I'm seeing this around the $59 level currently, and I'm looking towards 65, right? This is a price that they could absolutely continue to hit if as long as they stay in line with their guidance and we see the demand. We've seen this chart already start to play out, and I can confirm the momentum at least. I always say like, hey, I want to wait for confirmation before I personally hop into a trade. And so giving yourself that lead time, giving yourself the amount of time to actually understand and interpret the earnings and take a position, like so many people want to guess the bottom or guess the absolute top. And that's not necessary, at least in the style of trading that I employ. So I totally would advise people to kind of play earnings after the fact or play the run up, but I personally avoid actually holding through earnings unless it's a stock that I'm long in and I have no intention on selling in the first place. On another day, we'll talk about at the money straddles and all of that stuff. But there you go. That's the secret sauce from Elaine to how to trade earnings.
Thank you.
And then
Thank you
this
very
is
much.
financial advice, as
Yeah, I
always.
know. Yeah. Okay. And are we moving on to AMD or sticking with Tesla?
Oh, AMD, I've got a price target for it. I've been sitting there since 79.65. I'm riding it to, I think, well, just my levels. I'm looking for 85.61 before earnings, and then a huge sell off.
I have a couple of opinions on AMD from based on Intel results, because Intel's data center margin profit margin reduced quite significantly. I'm thinking there might be a fierce competition there, and AMD might actually underperform the expectation. That's just one opinion from me. Thanks.
It's not a bad one. For me, I really want to hear more about the Xilinx acquisition. So many companies have great mergers, but because of having whatever discrepancies in the difference of the companies, they have a problem actually integrating the two companies together. So I'm really, really interested. This Xilinx acquisition represents a large portion of AMD's production capacity. And so understanding how they're going to implement that into their core structure for me is something big. Also, so I was in a room this weekend. And talking about semiconductor shortages from TSM very specifically, and based off of, sorry, water, right? And that's something that we've heard sometimes, that there's a potential water shortage in Taiwan, which will affect the semiconductor output. And this is from some people there, and who knows, right? But this is just me listening on Clubhouse and wanting to find that value, and them saying that the rainy season is coming up. There is so far they have heard that there is enough water to make it to that rainy season, and there is no expectation for a lower amount of rain currently this year. And so maybe not to consider that as part of the problem. We've had TSM functioning at over 100% capacity and saying that they're going to continue to invest. So I'm bullish on the demand case, right? As long as Bitcoin continues to move, I'm bullish on the demand case. As long as people are still, regardless of what's going on, transitioning into at-home work, I'm fairly bullish on the demand case. If you build your own computers, AMD chips right now are like an ideal thing to do over Intel, just because of the integration with those processors. And then last but not least, if it's on the esports side and on that, sponsorship and being known for a gaming, I'm kind of bullish on AMD. So on the supply side, I'm sorry, on the demand side, I'm fairly bullish, but I really do like the point she was talking about, and with uh, sorry, margin on sales, which is important, and I think totally once again relates to the difficulty in the supply chain.
Yeah, I was reading a lot more supply chain problems are going to happen, and I feel like every report that I see, as far as different outlets that I follow, as far as different tech guys, computer building guys, DIY guys, and people that report on like the gaming industry, they just keep saying like, "Hey, look, like this thing's actually going to be pushed back farther than we thought." And I feel like that keeps being the sentiment. Like it keeps getting farther and farther into 2022. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'm very curious because for the most part, regardless of this particular earnings, I mean, I'm overall extremely bullish on AMD and loving it at this price. Although I have heard people talk about a $60 retracement, but that was really more related to Xilinx acquisition. So thinking about supply chain issues really continuing to plague them will be an interesting. That'll say a lot for them, and also potentially for the rest of the semiconductor industry.
The,
Whereas
the Xilinx thing is the biggest thing for me right now too, just
big.
because it's such a big part.
Fully agree there. With that said, um, what I mean, honestly, man, like there's other earnings today. Oh, Albertsons reported earnings, which I kind of wanted to look at. This already came in before market opened. What do we got? Wow. So, beat on revenue and a miss on EPS. Oh no, sorry, that's last earnings. I don't have the new one yet, so I guess it hasn't come
While
out.
you're looking at that, I did want to cover some news since we only have a couple of seconds.
No, I know.
I did want to say, like, we were talking about AstraZeneca and how they were in trouble last week, but the crazy thing is, Europe, what I'm seeing there is some desperation. They actually sued AstraZeneca over delays in the COVID-19 vaccines, which is absolutely giving people blood clots. And so for them to sue over them delaying it, like, it just shows desperation that people are, like, willing to go to whatever bounds to get to this herd immunity. So I'm looking at that. Also, we got some price target upgrades in the airlines again. So, I mean, people still are like Patrick was talking about earlier, bullish on short term domestic travel. Just a couple of things. I know Siobhan was on the stage. He hadn't really had a chance to say anything. Was you looking for anything, or Elaine, are you ready to go?
Thank you, Chris. And sorry I wasn't able to join for the last couple of them. It's been crazy in India. My parents, though I'm over here in States, my parents are in India, so I was just a bit worried about that stuff. Couple of things I just want to say on the earning side of things. Very important. Every earning cycle throughout the year, there are four times it's going to happen, and every earning season is different from the other. Last year, you get into technology, you get into any kind of home improvement stuff. Every earnings was beating the other one, right? So we had a good run throughout the earnings. This year, we went through the first earnings season cycle. We saw what it was about. This one, I have a similar kind of feeling where banks are continuing to perform very well. It's mostly technology which is getting hurt. The innovation side of it is getting hurt. The growth stocks which are getting hurt. So, whosoever who plays the earning cycle, please be careful. I understood what Elaine said, and I completely agree with her philosophy. Generally, what I do is if there is a company which had bad earnings report or something which I didn't find good, maybe the guidance wasn't good, maybe there's some kind of shortage. For example, let's say hypothetically Tesla has some big issue because of semiconductor, or Ford has, or GM has, and their stock tanks. I don't touch that stock for my trades, not for my investment, for my trades for the next 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks. I just like to stay away from it till all that sentiment, all those emotions have washed away. And then I'd like to get into it.
Yeah, Shabam, that's why I like you. I totally agree with that sort of like ability, and it gives you just so much more ability to actually have kind of some prediction of where the price is going to go. I'm super into that, and I know that's not the high level strategy that I think people really want to hear, right? Like
No,
I
but that's
know.
facts. We sat on Apple for a little while, and then once she was ready to pop again, we got
Yep,
right back into it. You just got to let it cool down
exactly.
for a little while.
That's nice. You got to let it simmer. I'm totally with it. So Albertson did already report their earnings, and it was a beat on EPS by 12 cents. Yeah, non-GAAP EPS of 60 and a GAAP EPS of negative 0.37, and then the revenue was a $80 million beat. That's a 2.1% year-over-year growth. And regardless, and beat doesn't matter though, down 2% in the pre-market right now, right? Like here we go, we have a company that's done a beat and also has reported like a really strong spike in digital sales growth, which is strong for a defensive stock. And yet still kind of taking a little bit of a beating. I don't really trade defensive stocks necessarily, but you know what? When we've seen the market take these strong downturns, which there is the potential for it to do, we've seen the defensive sector do great, right? There have been a number of days where the whole market was red, and it was XLP that was the sector ETF that didn't end up in the red. And so, looking at something like this, where we're down 2% on a stock that moves slower than molasses, uh, I can't wait to see if the market does turn down and kind of use this as potential hedge. Like that's what defensive stocks are for, right? That's what the defensive sector is really for. So I'm into this. And Albertsons, I think they're the second largest grocery store in the U.S. Chain in the U.S. Right? So this does represent a large part of what we can look at for the rest of our consumer defensive as well. And I think that actually bodes fairly well for how we're going to be moving outside of COVID. And also, if we do continue to see kind of a spike, we just sent a bunch of supplies over to India. The India variant not even seems, I've been watching about it. I'm fucking terrified. I hope your family's okay, Shivam.
Yes, they are
Truly.
okay. They got vaccinated. The problem over there is people who are not able to make have means or have resources to take care of themselves. That's where the problem is. And personally, I'm not at all in aware of any strain or something. I've not read into it because I was just trying to take care of like whosoever is in India of my relation or my friends. But one thing which I know for sure which happened in India was there were certain things that opened with mass amount of people, hundreds of thousands of people are going into those gatherings and all that stuff. And it was it's like imagine celebrating Christmas over here. That's how they were celebrating a couple of big festivals in India. And somehow all of these adds up, whether it's not, even if it's not a new strain, it's an old strain. But if you act like that, you just give away all the caution, you throw the caution out of the
No,
wind,
Shivam.
this
It
will
is a new
happen. Yeah.
strain. It's a
Oh,
total new
wow.
strain.
Wow.
It's a new
And
strain. It's higher efficacy in younger people. It affects babies as under 6 months.
wow. It's
And on top of that, the issue isn't necessarily the strain. I mean, although it
mhm.
is. They said so because I've been really watching about this, and we're totally spending way too much time. But whatever, it's cool. It like so they're saying, back historically they said if you have a member of your house that has COVID, you're gonna distance them, put them in a room, and you should probably be fine as long as you both wear protective gear. But now that's not the case at all. For this new strain in India, they said if somebody in the house has it, all 20 people in the house are gonna have it by the end of the week. Point blank period. Also,
That's
we know
horrible.
that India has a larger population of just people who, like the thing is, social distancing is a privilege, right? If you got money, you got a car, you don't have to walk around in markets, you can social distance. If that's the way that you get groceries, that's the way that you conduct business, unfortunately, you are going to be exposed at a higher risk level. And India has that, right? Like they have that type of economy and those type of markets. And I think it also bodes negatively for there are plenty of people like that in the US, right? Like this is the kind of group that is still unemployed. This is the group that is the bottom 15%. This is our essential workers who have been at the highest level of risk and at least we're able to get vaccinated. But the question is the vaccine going to be effective against newer and newer strains as they continue to mutate? And currently the answer is maybe not. But who knows? That's just predictive. And seeing India do 350,000 people new cases in a single day is shocking. Oh, sorry. And the point is, I was watching somebody. This guy was crying. He was like, "I have money." He's like, "I have money. There's literally no beds or oxygen or doctors available."
True, true. And
Also,
some of
fucking
these
crushed me.
stories which you hear, from your peer group, from your friends and family, they're horrifying, man. I mean, it's really not a good situation over there.
So
All right.
Other notable earnings for this morning, Checkpoint Technologies up 1.1% in the pre-market, had a good beat on revenue, up and EPS as well. So revenue was up 5% on the year and EPS up 9% to $1.54. Checkpoint is a cybersecurity company, and I think as we continue to move, cybersecurity isn't an area that I talk about a lot, but I do think it's important, and I do think that these companies actually are going to continue to be a point of growth that we can look at. Um, yeah, they do cloud security specifically, and their overall revenue growth is it's low to some of their rivals, but this is also a much smaller company by market cap than like a Cisco or something like that. Let's talk about news, and then we'll do a watch list, and then we'll end it because market opened, and good lord, Chris, what's your news, man? What do you got for us?
Oh, that's basically the couple of things that I was watching. Other than that, I'm pretty much watching Tesla and Apple all day. I did also see that that big news about Camping World partnering with BitPay. So I did wanted to see a little bit of activity there. But honestly, to be perfectly honest, just watching oil, I'm looking for some volatility there this week. I might trade actually to the downside on oil, short term, just for the next day or two, and then see what happens after OPEC. But that's what I'm watching. Other than that, before we close out and you jump into affirmations or more news, I do want to say, hey everybody, just we are working on something with the Benzinga aftermarket trade therapy. This week we have Ben coming up. Next week we have Alex Cutler, and we're trying to get a El Professor. So basically Wednesdays at 6 o'clock, guys. Make sure you're tuned in. Go ahead, Elaine.
Cool. No, thank you. So other things that I'm thinking about actually, so the GOP senators floated their $900 billion trimmed infrastructure spending bill. And this is kind of a big deal, seeing Biden get all that pushback on taxes as well. Not only from Democrats who are worried about the SALT tax, but obviously the entire Republican Party. And now, uh, and their ideology is, instead of increasing the corporate tax rate to 28%, to not pay for some of the infrastructure spending, because over time it'll pay for itself. And that is a really, really strong line in direct opposition to what Biden's trying to use, which is, use the not the Federal Reserve, but use federal regulation to actually directly inject money into places where, blue collar and these infrastructure jobs, kind of like the New Deal, is what helps a disenfranchised American population, middle class population, middle lower class population. These jobs are great. They actually have career outputs because of working with power and stuff like that. A lot of it is unionized, not all. Like states like Texas won't have that, but still, this is stuff that if you can get highly skilled with EV, with any sort of power, with plumbing, all of that, you're going to make, whatever, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 a year. And that's not me making shit up. That's me knowing that I used to work in construction, right? Like, and these were the jobs. You wanted to work for a union, you wanted to have that pension, you wanted to have all those things. And these sorts of government bills are what guarantee that union will actually have the jobs and have the ability to do the pensions. Something that we saw with the post office is that because people kept going, and we saw limited demand for people actually sending mail through the post office, a lot of the times most of our mail is mostly spam garbage, right? Well, that's had an effect on the profitability of the post office, and also their ability for the union to remain solvent. So these things are kind of important to think about when you think about what the infrastructure and who that's actually going to represent and help. I think looking at the back and forth between this and also the Democrats who are mad about the SALT tax is a really big deal. And also, so Exxon investors got warned by an activist fund that sits on their that holds a large position in Exxon, that they don't find that they have an existential business risk, because they don't have a clear what is the actual a vague and undefined plan in terms of moving on to renewable energies and the profitability of that in the future. Now, I actually strongly disagree, because I've been doing a lot of research on carbon capture, and I personally think that, like, Exxon, Chevron, Oxy, some of these are the biggest investors in carbon capture and some of the renewable stuff. And I think that it is a total misnomer and misunderstanding of, like, what the oil companies are actually doing. And of course, most of their revenue comes from oil, because oil is extremely profitable. That's the whole point of it. It's not like whatever renewable energy has not shown that it can be as profitable yet. That's the whole thing. It's like such a clear map. However, in terms of saving the world and saving the ozone and doing like carbon capture, especially pulling it out of the air, especially at the source of some of these refineries, is a huge issue. And I think that seeing them be some of the biggest supporters, because it's not the government. Like, like, we kill these oil companies, but where's the government's investment in carbon capture if it's so damn important? Where's the local government investment, right? It's only the companies doing private funding. So I don't know. I don't know. I actually have a really strong opinion about this, and we don't have time to fully get into it. But these notes are important, and do bring light to wanting more investment in the renewable energy from our major energy manufacturers, and what they're going to look like for a 30-year outlook. Because I mean, Zeb's brought it up a million times that you don't want to be based in an industry that basically has passed its peak, right? But has energy passed its peak? No, fossil fuels have, and that's okay. I think these companies have the ability to pivot, and I would question who else is investing in them at this level currently. So these are interesting things I'm thinking of. Anybody got any other news?
I had one that was like slight about Spotify incorporating their software into Facebook and making it useful.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, let
That's
me see if I can find it. It was something like that, and I use Spotify, so I was like, "Ooh, that might be a little pop there for both platforms."
I don't know if you guys talked about it yet this morning, but Ford, GM, and like AutoNation, I think CarMax too, are all up because I read an article about how like a lot of the the car dealerships are up because of the semiconductor shortage and cars are just selling for more because the shortage of vehicles and stuff like that. So that's my 2 cents for the day.
Interesting. All right. Well, do you guys want to do a watch list today? Jesus Lord. I'll go. So some of the things on my watch list are Magnite. Currently, I pitched Magnite on last Friday in the Benzinga room for fun because, I'm actually a huge fan of this. And as we see continued core cutting costs, and we know that like major cable providers and stuff like that are continuing to report losses in terms of their user base. I think companies that stream video and also add advertising to the companies that stream video, because that's what Magnite does. They actually do advertising that is powered by AI, is going to continue to grow. And currently they're up 1.28% from Friday. So I'm liking it, but this is something that's been on a fairly strong downward trend since their last earnings, where they reported that they might have difficulty continuing to gain customer acquisition and showed like slowing demand potentially. However, I actually believe in the fundamentals of what this company is doing, and I find them to be at a good price. And we've also seen recently a little bit of a bottom start to form around the $33 level. So I would love to buy it at 33 if I can. Currently, we're sitting at 38.77, and my short-term price target is 40. So outside of that, Desktop Metal is another one that I'm sort of looking at. Jesus Christ, GSX. Desktop Metal, a 3D printing company that has figured out a way to 3D print with aluminum, I believe, like an aluminum powder coating. And they've also taken a steep downturn, but I think this is more in line with the entire 3D printing sector, which has also kind of taken a downturn. We see NMGM, X1. You pick your favorite 3D printing stock that's not 3M, which also makes like safety supplies. And they're all kind of on a discount. I like this thing at $12, to be honest. Even 13 would be cool. We're currently sitting at 13.67, and this does represent a 0.22% decrease from Friday's close. But once again, I mean, at least with this for me, I'm kind of looking at the longer term trend and wanting to see it continue to hold above that $13 level. And my next price target for that would be 17. And then, I mean, I can talk about F-Cell. So Fuel Cell is another company that I saw have a really strong potential. I mean, they've just been on a tear down, and I now find them to potentially be undervalued. And I'm personally looking to see if they can continue to hold around this $10 level. If they break like 966 even, I wouldn't be interested. But if they continue to hold this, I'd be looking for a $13 price target. And those are just kind of popular companies. I told you guys I'm actually intending on playing Freeport McMoran. That's something I'm really looking at. NEP Next Era Energy is another stock that I'm looking at. I want to see them hold at the $73 level, and I'm looking for that 75 move. And in Las Vegas Sands as well, which I already spoke about earlier. So I mean, I have a really long watch list. I have a
Are
really, really
you,
long watch list, and I just don't trade them all
Elaine,
at the same time.
are
Yeah,
you gonna play XBEV today?
maybe.
You're good. I was gonna say, as long as I'm jumping more into the lumber side of things. Like lumber ticked up 48 points today, 3.62% on the charts. I'm watching Home Depot. I'm also looking into BCC. I'm looking for Boise Cascade. They're one of the biggest lumber producers. I'm looking for a 68.40 price target there. So yeah. Also, you can play lows with lumber.
Oh, mad true. Absolutely. Um, I also just want to talk about like the crypto stocks. As long as we continue to see crypto, I mean, Bitcoin did have a huge bounce and is showing some really strong price movement, staying in the $55,000 region. Holding here is positive. Like I know I was very dismissive about Bitcoin earlier, and it's just because it's hard to talk when we have like we're using Bitcoin to explain everything, which I'm not into. But just purely for that price action, it is really positive and potentially bullish. And like we do expect it, if we hold here, the next level for me would be looking to see if we break into the $60,000 level, really past the 59, whatever. There's a strong resistance there. But because of that, Marathon is up 10% first thing of the day. So that's kind of important. Mara, Riot, MSTR, Overstock, all stocks that respond really, really strongly when Bitcoin's in sort of a bull run, and Bitcoin seems as though it might be in a bull run right now. And then Timken Steel, like, yo, there's just no reason to not be holding the stock for me at this point. So I probably am actually going to be doing more of a long
Spy.
position because this thing has been going stupid consistently. We're seeing a lot of our base materials continue to grow: steel, copper, pick lumber. It doesn't matter. Pick your building material. It's going to the moon. And so this is making me feel strong. If we can hold over this 1217 level, to be honest, I'll be looking to see if we can hit 1281, and then it's, whatever. It's moving towards the $15 level for me. That's what I would love to see. I don't know if they're actually going to hit that because of the margin, but this is something. Their guidance was actually really strong and positive.
Liv, how are your spy calls? I know you're playing them. Spy looks like it wants to hit 420 tomorrow. Talk to me.
All right, I'm gonna give a watch list. I'm not gonna get too hyped. So currently, I'm looking at Facebook because of the recent news. I want to get an entry in at 304.40, ride it up to 306. If not, my stop is going to be at 302. I'm also looking at Snap towards a considerable bounce, but that's for later on in the week. I'm looking at SPY and Apple, of course. Those are given. Apple, I'm looking for it to hit 135 today. SPY, I'm looking for it to hit 419 today, just because of the movement that we've gotten so far. And Fubo is something that I'm looking at just because I would like to see it like not be dead. If I could get an entry at 22.50, moving up into 24 because it's done that in the past, that would be great. If not, then I'll just keep playing what I'm still playing now. There's so much more like AMD, Fuel Cell, like Elaine was saying. Um, Surprisingly, Workhorse, as we may see. I'm still examining it. Viac, it's at $41 right now. Its low was 37 last week. So a lot of good opportunities here. But yeah.
Yeah, fully agree. This week's watch list is stupid because the question is
Robust.
like, are we going to continue to bull out? Like, because if so, and in like a mid cap, like growth stocks are, oh my God. Look at what's going on with Gamble. We could choose X American Steel, Futu. There's so many that are just having a really great run already. I love Freeport McMoran. This thing is a
Where's
rocket ship.
Palantir?
It doesn't make
Oh,
any sense.
can I add one
Oh,
more?
playing Palantir to 25? Oh, man.
You're playing. Oh my God, is Palantir
Yeah,
winning today?
It
it
was,
That's
is.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Look
was
at
gonna
hold
add
on.
After,
Palantir.
Seriously, look at Freeport McMoran. Like, look at it. This stock is dirt cheap. Well, at least whatever. I think
All
it's
right,
dirt cheap.
Miss Rich. Okay, we see you.
okay.
You got money.
We
Okay,
see
all
you.
right.
Are you
Nah,
already in there, full disclosure?
let
No,
me.
I'm not. But I want to make a long position because like I've been watching. Look at the chart. Like on a weekly chart. Look at this thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Y'all see what happens when we start trading through the time of the week
Well,
trade. So it's time
I
to
just
trade.
want to kind of reiterate something while y'all look at your charts and stuff, because Chris kind of mentioned it earlier, but I don't think he said like the time. But Lane goes on Benzinga on Wednesdays at 6. And if you missed it, she went on last week on Monday, and it's still up. If you go on YouTube and search Elaine Adams, you guys can watch the video from last week. And we would love it if you guys comment, like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. It's much, much appreciated. And that's all I have to say.
Can I add, before we go, OCGN to the watch list? Just because of what we've learned today, between what Siobhan was saying, obviously, I've been following this closely just because of the stock, but then also because of what's been happening in India lately. It seems like a no-brainer play to me to watch, especially since it's moving right now as is. It's ran up to 18 before. It was $5 literally last week. So just something to keep in mind.
I have a piping hot stock play, and I called this on Friday because I thought that we would be seeing international aid moving towards India, and because of that, like there are a lot of American companies also that benefited from COVID spikes, and there's a company called Lind PLC. This ticker is LIN, and this stock went insane based off of just uh based off of COVID use case in India specifically. It's actually an India stock that combined with an American company, and so we're trading it through an exchange traded note. However, like a lot of these air gas companies, because we know that oxygen is a key fucking thing for people to survive this, it's a fairly simple play, especially if you can get exposure to the Indian markets. So I know that's maybe terrible to think about death and suffering like an opportunity to make money. But at least we can just talk about it from a demand point. And honestly, if you feel bad, take all the money that you make off of doing this and start donating it to an organization that's actually sending aid or something like that. But I do think there's going to continue to be an opportunity because the level of cases that they have, it's not going to slow down until it does. But currently, it seems as though there's just a huge pileup and a problem right now. And this was the danger. It's not necessarily that COVID is the most dangerous, it's that the hospital systems would get overwhelmed and behind. That was the dangerous part, and that's what's going on in India right now. Also, I definitely went. I'll leave it alone. So that's pretty much it for me. Anybody else have anything else to add before we kind of get out of here?
Nope.
All right. Well, with that said, let's do some affirmations. Anybody else want to do the affirmations, or should I do it? Gratitude. I'm grateful for this community, and I'm grateful to come here and just have something to make me excited. I mean, I'm already excited about the market, you guys, but I get excited to talk about it with you all because we add perspective and depth to each other. I'm grateful for my personal safety, health, and ability, and I'm grateful for that of everybody who has it. To be honest, it is not guaranteed in this world, clearly. I'm grateful for the love of the people around me, and specifically the love and support from our community because you guys are really positive. Patience. I am patient. I am calm. I am collected. I am prepared to trade today. I am prepared to take positions at confirmation and not before. I am prepared to trade to my plan. I'm prepared to wait for the right exit. I will always protect my principal, which includes not overexposing myself to risk based off of wanting to hit these earnings plays out of the park. I will not trade based off of fear. I will trade based off of a trend. I hope everybody has a great green day. And this is Stockhouse, and we're out.